Welcome to the Cross Creek On Demand podcast, a podcast for you because God is for you. This week, we're continuing our series, Faith in Real Life, Stories of Hope in a Messed Up World, with a story about someone you'd never expect to be a hero of faith. Her past was messy, her reputation broken, and her future uncertain. But one real step of trust changed everything. If you've ever wondered whether your story, your doubts, or your past could disqualify you from God's purpose, this episode is for you. Because when ordinary people take one real step of trust, God moves. So, let's talk about it together. Okay, think, is there someone whose faith inspires you? What is it that stands out to you about them? And now we've all heard stories, big stories of people freed from addictions or generosity that goes viral. But if you're like me, sometimes faith is confusing. It's difficult to hold. See, faith can feel slippery, like trying to grab hold of fog. It can feel like something some people just have, while others wonder if they ever will. So, what is faith really? It has to be more than just believing the right things and doing the right religious motions. Can it do anything for people stuck in routines, doubts, and disappointments? And how do we know if we have faith at all? This series is about real people who faced fear, failure, and doubt, but found hope anyway. And today, we meet maybe the most unlikely example. Her name is Rahab. Honestly, we shouldn't even know Rahab's name. From the outside, no one would pick her to be part of God's story. Her background should have disqualified her. Her own neighbors have written her off. But her story shows what happens when someone decides to trust God just as they are. Her story answers a question we all ask at some point. Can someone like me, with my fears or past, really take a step of faith that changes things? So if you think your story disqualifies you, Rahab's story is proof that it doesn't. You don't have to be a spiritual giant or have a squeaky clean past for God to work through you. Because when ordinary people take one real step of trust, God moves. Now, 650 years before Rahab, God made a promise to a man named Abraham. He said that Abraham would be a father of a great nation. The whole world would be blessed because of Abraham's family, and his descendants would inherit the land of Canaan, called the Promised Land, because it was promised by God to Abraham. But God said it wouldn't be easy and it wouldn't be quick. And his plan takes centuries to unfold. His people go into slavery and then they're delivered and now they're wandering in the wilderness. And now they're led by Joshua and Israel stands right ready to step into the Promised Land. But there's just one problem. The land wasn't empty. Other nations were busy building cities and creating their own distinct cultures. So God demands his people to conquer and destroy these nations. And this is the stuff that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, for good reason. And I don't want to give a pat answer to this violence in the Old Testament, but also this isn't our main point for today. So let me just say, when we look at the history of these cultures, we see that they were pretty barbaric. Systematic evil, child sacrifice, incest, institutionalized abuse of women. And so the target of God's judgment was evil that had wrecked lives for generations. But God's heart was always to save people. And that's where Rahab enters the story. As Israelite spies step into enemy territory, they stay at a house of a woman no one would expect to become a hero of faith. But as we said, when ordinary people take one real step of trust, God moves. Here's the story. Joshua 2. Then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at the Acacia Grove. He instructed them, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially around Jericho. So the 2 men set out and came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there that night. But someone told the king of Jericho, "Some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land." So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab, "Bring out the men who have come into your house, for they have come here to spy out the whole land." Rahab had hidden the 2 men, but she replied, "Yes, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them." Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax she had laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River. And as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut. So can you imagine Rahab's stress and fear? Like one wrong word, one wrong glance, and she's dead. And it's not like she woke up that morning looking to be involved in ancient international affairs. And the pressure for self-preservation must have been intense. But she refuses to give up her guests, putting their safety above her king's demands and above her ethnic and national identity. See, it takes courage to do the right thing when we don't know if it'll work. And we read this story because we probably, we know the ending, but we read it like she's a brave hero. But how did she know hiding the spies was the right thing? I mean, let's look at this through the eyes of a Jerichoian. Rahab was a straight-up traitor. She's aiding and abetting invading enemies. See, faith doesn't always look good to those around you. And often when I've heard this story discussed, there's a big deal made about how Rahab was a sinful woman who God used to save his people. But don't think of Rahab as someone making a sinful lifestyle choice for fun. No, she's a casualty of ruthless economies, powerful men, and a broken culture. And she is someone God sees when no one else does. She was the victim of the very same systematic evils God wanted to wipe out. But still, why does she protect the spies? Well, let's listen to Rahab's words here while she reveals what's really going on in her heart. Before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up on the roof to talk with them. "I know the Lord has given you this land," she told them. "We are all afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror. For we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. And we know that you did what you did to Sihon and Og, the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, whose people you completely destroyed. No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family, since I have helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live, along with my father and my mother, my brothers and sisters, and all their families." We offer our own lives as a guarantee for your safety," the men agreed. "If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and be kind to you when the Lord gives us the land." So Rahab says, the God of the Israelites isn't just another God, he's the God above all. And if he is, maybe she thinks he could give me a new story too. See, Rahab allowed her faith to guide her decisions. She let the truth of who God is disrupt everything she'd ever known and risked everything long before she knew how it would end. Faith is not just knowing facts or performing good deeds. No, it's choosing to trust God and allowing that trust to shape our actions. Faith is acting in trust when you don't have all the answers. And I think God allowed the spies to find Rahab, not just for the spies, but for Rahab. He knew there was a forgotten and abused woman who was ready for a new start. And think about it, every one of her neighbors, as she says, had heard about the Israelites' God and what he had done. But only Rahab decided to stake her life on it. She didn't let her past, her current situation, or her allegiances keep her from choosing to trust that God would rescue her. And put yourself in Rahab's sandals. Would you risk everything for a God you'd only heard stories about? But she staked her life, her future, her family's future, on the belief that God was bigger than her past or her city's gods. So, the next day, the spies escape down a scarlet rope out of her window and report back to Joshua. And she's going to leave this rope in her window to tell the Israelite army not to attack anyone in that house. Now imagine the days that followed. Rahab doesn't know exactly when or how the Israelites will return. All she can do is tie that red cord and wait, holding on to a promise that she can't see but is dared to trust. And then the Israelite army finally arrives, and instead of attacking, God tells them to give the city 7 days to surrender. And when they refuse, the walls come down and the people are killed. But Rahab trusted God by keeping her red cord hanging in the window, and Joshua remembers Rahab's courage. Joshua 6. Meanwhile, Joshua said to the two spies, "Keep your promise. Go to the prostitute's house and bring her out, along with all her family." The men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, brothers, and all the other relatives who were with her. They moved her whole family to a safe place near the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned the town and everything in it. Only the things made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron were kept for the treasury of the Lord's house. So Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. What a great story. And that would be such a good end of the story, happily ever after. But it actually gets better. We'll fast forward 1400 years, Matthew 1. This is the record of the ancestors of Jesus the Messiah, a descendant of David and of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Amminadab. Amminadab was the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Talk about her next week. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of King David. Because of her choice to trust, Rahab gets a new family. She becomes a hero, and she is written into the line of the King of Kings. Her single act of trust rewrites her story forever and echoes for eternity. But her story isn't just ancient history. It sets the stage for God's invitation to each of us. Remember, when ordinary people take one real step of trust, God moves. Faith is not about a perfect record. It's about one real decision to trust in who God says He is, no matter your background, your wounds, or your fears, and choosing to act on that trust in big ways and small ways. See, faith is a tool God uses to craft amazing stories. Rahab's story proves there are no spiritual outsiders, no past too messy, no reputation too ruined. God's welcome is for you. And Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, and He was born into Rahab's messy family tree. He stepped into our brokenness to offer rescue and hope to people like Rahab and people like us. Real faith still looks like Rahab's, taking God at His word even when you only have a promise. But now, that promise has a name, Jesus. The same invitation given to Rahab goes out to each of us. So is today your day to trust Jesus? To let go of your fears, your past, your reputation, and trust Him with your future? You're invited to experience a faith that isn't foggy or out of reach, but real and life-changing. If you're ready, you can receive that gift of new life. You can pray with me right now. Heavenly Father, I believe Your love is stronger than my past, present, or future. I trust that Jesus died for me. Today, I declare what You say about me is true. I'm loved, forgiven, and accepted. And as we all go through our regular, messy lives, each day, good or bad, is a chance to put that choice to trust into action. And in God's eyes, our identity changes instantly when we choose to trust Him. But our minds and our habits, they change with time. And seeing ourselves as God sees us is an ongoing process. So be patient with yourself. Like Rahab, let God rewrite your story day by day. So how do we do that? How do we walk through this process? We practice. Faith is like a muscle. It grows by being used. And so my invitation for this week is simple, but not easy. Pick one area to really trust God. Forgive someone. Reach out for help. Make something right. Try praying, but pray with thankfulness instead of worry and fear. Or simply say yes to God. When we practice daily faith, we live out God's invitation for messy, ordinary people to trust. No matter your past doubts or failures, His invitation stands for you. Not all of our stories are dramatic and make for good movies, but every story matters to God and is being used by Him to create an even bigger story. He invites us to play our part by taking small steps of faith every day. And as our faith grows, so do our opportunities to see Him move. Imagine having a trust so strong it withstands the monotony of regular life and the crises that inevitably come to every life. Having a trust that's more than the fog of hope so and maybe. Enjoying a life of God bringing healing, peace, and hope through your daily steps of trust. Imagine a community where every story is a story of trust, full of reminders that God rescues and redeems no matter what. Together, we can be a community that chooses a faith of action, not just words and hopes. God's story is bigger than your past or doubts. He's calling you to trust. So what if, like Rahab, your step of trust became the story someone else tells one day?